I still remember that electrifying moment as if it were splashed in neon across my very soul. The moment my wife, with a cold, dismissive tone, told me I needed to get a better job. In those first 100 heartbeats, every hope I had cherished about our shared future crumbled into a cascade of anger and disbelief. Her words, sharp and uncompromising, echoed in my mind like a death knell for my self-worth. They cut deeper than any failure or setback I'd ever known. I felt a surge of determination, an unyielding resolve to prove that I was capable of far more than she'd ever believed. And so, with my heart pounding and my mind ablaze, I set out to change everything. For years, I had poured my energy into my work, often sacrificing time with my family and friends to make ends meet. I believed that every extra hour at the office and every sleepless night spent strategizing was a step toward a better future for both of us. My wife, however, never saw it that way. Instead of celebrating my perseverance, she looked down on me, insisting I needed to get a better job, to provide the lifestyle she thought I deserved. At first, I tried to brush off her comments as mere frustration with our financial situation, but as time passed, her words grew more cutting, more insistent. I began to internalize that I was somehow lacking, that my efforts weren't enough. It was a painful, slow poison that gnawed away at my confidence. I remember the day vividly. We were hosting a quiet dinner at home, a rare evening when the tension seemed to hang as heavily as the unspoken words. Over a simple meal, she casually remarked that I should consider a real job, one that would bring in more money, more recognition, more prestige. I sat there, the clatter of cutlery and soft murmurs of conversation around me, feeling utterly exposed. Her words, though delivered in a seemingly offhand manner, cut deep into the core of my being. They made me question every sacrifice, every long hour I had devoted to what I thought was our shared dream of financial stability. I had believed in the value of hard work and dedication, but that evening her scorn shattered that belief. In the immediate aftermath, I fell into a heavy silence. The dinner ended awkwardly and I excused myself early, retreating to the solitude of our study. The room, once a place of warm family memories, now felt like a cold, sterile space where every object whispered reminders of my inadequacies. I sat down at the old oak desk and opened a drawer to retrieve my journal, the one I had filled with hopes, plans, and dreams that I'd once thought were the building blocks of our future. With trembling hands, I began to write, pouring out my heart in long, unfiltered sentences. I documented every moment of hurt, every instance of feeling dismissed and devalued. I recalled the countless nights spent working overtime, the sacrifices I made without complaint, and I wondered how those contributions could be so easily discarded by the person I had loved and trusted. As the ink flowed across the paper, I realized that her callous demand was not just a comment on my job, it was a declaration that she no longer valued the person I was or the effort I put into building our life. I felt an overwhelming mix of sadness and a fierce, burning resolve. I vowed then that I would not let her disparagement define my future. Instead, I would harness that pain, use it as a driving force to propel me forward, and transform every negative word into a stepping stone toward my own success. That night, with the weight of her rejection still heavy in my chest, I began to plan my next moves. I started by re-examining my career, my skills, and my ambitions. I delved into research about better opportunities, sought out advice from mentors, and began updating my resume with a newfound urgency. I spent hours on job sites, drafting cover letters, and networking with professionals who recognized talent and potential. The more I worked on these plans, the more I began to see that her words, however bitter, had unlocked a determination within me that I had long suppressed. I also began to question the dynamics of our relationship. Had I been so blinded by love and loyalty that I ignored the signs of her growing discontent? I recalled subtle hints, a lingering look at her phone, the way she seemed distracted during conversations, that now took on a different, more painful meaning. I realized that maybe, deep down, she never truly appreciated the sacrifices I made. The betrayal stung not only because of the financial or professional implications but because it struck at the heart of our partnership. It forced me to confront the painful truth: if she couldn't see my worth, then I had to redefine it for myself. That realization set in motion a slow, transformative process. I began to document my evolving thoughts in my journal, each entry marking a small step toward self-reclamation. I wrote about the frustration of being told I wasn't enough, the anger of having my hard work dismissed, and the resolve to prove that I was capable of achieving greatness on my own terms. I realized that my value wasn't determined by someone else's narrow standards, but by the dedication and perseverance that had driven me for years. In the weeks that followed, I started applying for new positions and exploring opportunities that promised not only better pay but also the respect and recognition I deserved. I networked relentlessly, attending industry events and reconnecting with former colleagues who had always believed in my abilities. Every conversation, every handshake, and every shared look of encouragement fueled my determination further. I found solace in the fact that I was no longer confined by her judgment. I was free to pursue a career that resonated with my true potential. Simultaneously, I began to reassess our financial situation. I scrutinized every dollar I had invested in our shared life, reevaluated our savings, and started making plans for financial independence. I knew that achieving a better job would not only elevate my professional standing but also secure a future where I wouldn't have to rely on someone who no longer valued me. I set clear goals for myself: to increase my savings, to invest wisely, and to build a secure foundation that would allow me to thrive regardless of what happened to our relationship. Each small financial win, every positive shift in my bank balance, served as a tangible reminder that I was taking control of my destiny. I also sought to heal the emotional wounds that had been inflicted by her harsh words. I turned to therapy, where I began to unpack the layers of pain, disappointment, and the lingering self-doubt that had been seeping into my identity. In these sessions, I learned to confront the deep-seated insecurities that her criticism had awakened. I was forced to question how I had allowed myself to be defined by someone else's shallow standards, and gradually, I started to rebuild the self-esteem that had been eroded by years of unreciprocated sacrifice. My therapist helped me recognize that the journey toward self-improvement was not about proving her wrong, but about affirming my own worth and potential. Every session was a step toward understanding that my value was inherent, rooted in the very effort I had poured into my career and my life. As the days turned into weeks, a remarkable transformation began to take shape. I found myself becoming more assertive and self-assured, both in my professional endeavors and in my personal reflections. I started to see my former job not as a limitation imposed by others, but as a stepping stone toward a more fulfilling future. I redoubled my efforts at work, seeking out projects that challenged me and pushing for promotions that reflected my true contributions. I immersed myself in learning new skills and expanding my professional network, all the while fostering a deep belief that I was worthy of success. The external changes in my career paralleled an internal evolution. I began to reframe my narrative, viewing the betrayal not as a sign of my inadequacy, but as the catalyst that spurred me to achieve heights I had never imagined. I learned to appreciate every setback as a lesson, every rejection as an opportunity for growth. My journal became a testament to this metamorphosis, each entry a chronicle of pain transformed into purpose. I embraced my individuality, recognizing that the path to success was paved not by the validation of others, but by the unyielding determination to pursue one's own dreams. I knew that my journey was far from over, but with each passing day, I felt increasingly confident that I was building a future defined solely by my own values and aspirations. In every boardroom meeting and every networking event, I carried with me the memory of those painful days, a reminder that my worth was forged in the crucible of betrayal and emerged stronger and more resilient. I began to see that the same people who once mocked my efforts were now seeking my guidance, desperate for a piece of the success I had worked so hard to achieve. It was an ironic twist that filled me with a complex blend of vindication and cautious optimism. I realized that my journey, though marked by heartache, had ultimately led me to a place where I could stand tall, not as a victim but as a leader, as someone who had transformed adversity into opportunity. And so, each day became a deliberate, purposeful march toward a brighter future. I set new, ambitious goals for my career, redoubled my efforts in every project, and continued to refine my financial strategies with unwavering focus. I reached out to mentors, attended leadership seminars, and built strategic alliances with colleagues who recognized my potential. The transformation was not instantaneous. It was a gradual process of self-discovery and relentless effort. But with every achievement, I felt the shadow of my past diminishing. I was no longer the man who had been diminished by her shallow judgments. I was a force of nature, determined to create a legacy that would outlast any fleeting remark. In the quiet solitude of the early mornings, as I laced up my running shoes and hit the empty streets, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. The rhythmic sound of my footsteps became a mantra, a constant reminder that I was moving forward, leaving behind the pain and stepping into a future that was entirely my own. I looked to the horizon with renewed determination, knowing that every challenge I overcame was a building block for a legacy of strength, resilience, and undeniable success. That morning, as the first rays of sunlight spilled through the tall windows of my new office, I felt the profound culmination of a journey that had been as harrowing as it was transformative. Every moment, from the crushing humiliation of that family reunion to the relentless solitary nights of introspection and hard-won battles, had led me to this pivotal point where I stood confident, resolute, and undeniably successful. I had spent countless hours rebuilding not only my career but also my identity, transforming every tear, every bitter word, every sleepless night into the very foundation of a legacy I now proudly carried. The once dismissing laughter of my wife's relatives had long faded, replaced by respectful nods and earnest requests for advice. I was no longer the man they mocked. I was a leader, a visionary, and the living embodiment of resilience. The transformation wasn't instantaneous. It was a painstaking evolution marked by a series of small victories and painful setbacks that, together, reshaped my entire outlook on life. In those early days after that humiliating reunion, I had felt lost in a sea of self-doubt. I'd questioned every decision I'd ever made, wondering if I'd sacrificed too much for a love that turned cold. But as the months passed, the very fire that had once threatened to consume me became the catalyst for my rebirth. I began to see my struggles as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Every project that I led, every challenging negotiation at work, and every supportive conversation with a trusted friend became a brick in the new edifice of my self-worth. I threw myself into my professional endeavors with an intensity that startled even me. My career, once a quiet backdrop to a life I thought was shared, transformed into the arena where I showcased my true capabilities. I led groundbreaking projects, spearheaded innovative campaigns, and embraced roles that stretched me beyond the limits I had once accepted. The company, now recognizing the real value behind the ideas that had been unfairly claimed by others, began to celebrate my contributions. In board meetings, I spoke with a clarity and passion that silenced even the most skeptical voices. Every time I saw my name on a successful project or received an accolade for my innovation, I felt a rush of vindication, a reminder that I had reclaimed my place in a world that had once tried to erase me. Outside the sterile boardrooms and the relentless pace of corporate life, I embarked on a personal journey that reawakened parts of me I thought were long lost. I revisited old passions that had been neglected, long evenings spent with a paintbrush in hand, translating the vivid chaos of my emotions onto canvas, and quiet nights writing in my journal, where each word became a declaration of my resilience. I reconnected with the natural world, taking solitary walks through sunlit parks and along rivers at dusk, where the simple beauty of nature offered solace and a gentle reminder that life, even in its most painful moments, held endless possibilities. These moments of creative and personal expression were not mere escapes. They were vital parts of the healing process that allowed me to channel my inner turmoil into a vibrant mosaic of hope and renewal. The shift in my personal life was as dramatic as my professional resurgence. The isolation and bitterness that had once haunted me slowly gave way to genuine connections. I began to rebuild relationships with friends and family members who had stood by me during my darkest hours, and I forged new bonds with people who shared my values of authenticity, integrity, and perseverance. In intimate gatherings over coffee and long walks in the park, we exchanged stories of hardship and triumph. Their encouragement was a salve to my wounded spirit, and in their eyes, I saw the reflection of a man who had not only survived the storm but had grown stronger because of it. I realized that true support was a two-way street, one that allowed me to give as much as I received, and in doing so, helped me rebuild a network of relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care. As my professional and personal worlds began to merge into a new reality, I also focused on solidifying my financial future. I restructured my investments with meticulous care, diversifying my portfolio and exploring opportunities that aligned with my renewed vision of success. Every upward tick in my financial statements was a tangible affirmation that I was no longer defined by past betrayals but by the smart decisions I was making for my future. I started setting ambitious goals, ones that pushed me to innovate further, to expand my influence, and to create a legacy that would serve as a beacon for others. The financial independence I had long craved now afforded me the freedom to pursue opportunities on my own terms, to invest in projects that resonated with my values, and to ensure that my destiny was firmly in my own hands. Throughout this transformative journey, I continued to nurture my inner growth through reflection and mentorship. I attended leadership seminars and sought out mentors who had themselves risen from the ashes of personal and professional setbacks. Their stories, filled with wisdom and hard-earned resilience, reminded me that every trial was a lesson and every failure a stepping stone. I began to mentor younger colleagues, sharing the insights I had gained along the way. In these mentoring sessions, I found a renewed sense of purpose, Not only was I reclaiming my identity, but I was also empowering others to recognize their own worth. Every conversation was a testament to the idea that the true measure of success is not the absence of failure, but the ability to learn, adapt, and emerge stronger. As the seasons turned and another year passed since that pivotal moment at the reunion, the changes in my life had coalesced into a tapestry of triumph and transformation. I began to see that the very people who had once mocked me were now, in their desperation, seeking my counsel. They came to me with business proposals and loan requests, their voices tinged with both regret and hope. It was a bitter irony that those who had once dismissed my contributions were now relying on me to help salvage their crumbling ventures. While part of me felt vindicated by their newfound need for my expertise, I also felt a deep sadness for the way our family had fractured, how shallow judgments and petty rivalries had led to such a reversal of fortunes. Yet, in every whispered conversation and every formal meeting with disillusioned relatives, I maintained a quiet dignity. I set clear boundaries, ensuring that my assistance came with terms that respected both my contributions and my newfound self-worth. I drafted detailed proposals outlining strategic business improvements, complete with timelines, projections, and rigorous financial analyses. These documents were not just business tools, they were the manifestation of my journey, a declaration that my success was built on hard work, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. I watched as the company slowly began to stabilize, as projects once on the brink of collapse found new life under the guidance I provided. Each small victory was a brick in the new foundation I was building, not just for my own future but for a legacy that would outlast the petty squabbles of the past. Every evening, after a long day of challenging meetings and strategic planning, I would return to the sanctuary of my home. There, in the quiet glow of twilight, I allowed myself to reflect on the progress I had made. I would sit by my window watching the city lights flicker like distant stars, and feel a deep, abiding sense of gratitude. I recalled the painful moments of humiliation, the endless hours of doubt and despair, and marveled at how far I had come. Those memories, once a source of constant pain, had been transformed into the fuel for my resurgence. A reminder that every hardship had prepared me for the bright future I was now crafting. As the days grew longer and the seasons shifted once more, I began to plan for the next grand chapter of my life. I set ambitious goals for expanding my business ventures into new markets, for launching innovative projects that would redefine our industry, and for using my success to inspire and mentor others who had been overlooked or dismissed. I drafted a comprehensive roadmap that combined my professional ambitions with my personal commitment to authenticity and growth. I envisioned a future where my work would not only bring financial prosperity but also serve as a testament to the power of perseverance. Every meeting with potential partners, every new initiative, and every calculated risk was a deliberate step toward building a legacy that was entirely my own, a future that would stand as irrefutable proof that I had risen above the betrayal and reclaimed my identity. In the midst of this ambitious planning, I also embraced opportunities to celebrate my victories, both large and small. I organized gatherings with friends and mentors, where we reflected on our journeys, shared lessons learned, and celebrated the resilience that had carried us through adversity. These moments of communal celebration were not just about acknowledging my success, they were about recognizing the strength of the human spirit, the capacity to rebuild from ruins, and the beauty of forging ahead despite every setback. Every shared laugh, every congratulatory toast, reinforced the truth that I was not defined by the hurt of the past but by the boundless possibilities of the future. Now, as I stand on the threshold of tomorrow, with every aspect of my life meticulously rebuilt and thriving, I feel an overwhelming sense of pride and clarity. The echoes of that painful family reunion, the cruel dismissals that once cut me deeply, are now transformed into a distant memory, one that has fueled my rise to become a respected leader, a visionary, and an unwavering testament to the power of resilience. I have built a legacy on my own terms, one that is measured not by the shallow judgments of those who once mocked me but by the undeniable achievements that speak for themselves. My journey has been long, fraught with trials and moments of intense vulnerability, yet it has culminated in a life that is a true reflection of my inner strength and determination. I now look out over the city with a clear vision for the future, a future where my influence extends beyond mere financial success to touch the lives of others, inspiring them to reclaim their own worth and pursue their dreams relentlessly. Every challenge I have overcome has added a new layer to my identity, and every setback has taught me invaluable lessons about perseverance and self-belief. I know that the road ahead will continue to have its ups and downs, but I also know that I have the tools, the wisdom, and the unwavering resolve to navigate whatever comes my way. As I prepare to close the chapter on this transformative period, I am filled with a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that has brought me here. I have turned betrayal into a launchpad for success, and every scar, every bitter memory has become a stepping stone to a future defined by hope, innovation, and uncompromised self-worth. I step forward into tomorrow with a renewed spirit, a spirit that is ready to build, to lead, and to inspire. My destiny is now mine to shape, and with every courageous, determined step, I affirm that I am not defined by the past but by the limitless potential of the future.